All right, so we're going to do a webinar and talk a little bit about training and certification today. The big goal today is to tell you about all the different options that you have available to learn SolidWorks and to get certified in SolidWorks. That includes training from MLC CAD as well as other places. So I'll start out with a quick introduction. My name is Marcus, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm from Oklahoma State University. I actually still live here in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.
Yep.
I've been an applications expert for MLC CAD for 10 years and have 45 active certifications, which I believe is the number one, the most in the world for an individual. And I'm with my colleague, Jake Clanahan. Jake Clanahan has been an account manager here, so he does the sales side, I do the tech side. We work together.
I can't get promoted.
Yeah, two-man wrecking crew.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for 17 years. I thought it was 72 years at first.
Well,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're together here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and Jay, there's a picture of Jay receiving an award from Ken Clayton and Bertrand Sicot. He's won all kinds of awards, been doing this a very long time.
Thank you to my customers.
There you go, yeah.
And to you.
And one of the big reasons that we brought Jay along is Jay is great at helping customers to be successful with their software, and he does a lot of training sales, so we wanted to bring him along to get his perspective from talking to people and helping them to get trained and get going. So a little bit about MLC CAD Systems. We're a reseller of SolidWorks, MasterCam, 3D Systems, Markforged, and we've been doing this for 35 years. Our slogan is unbeatable service, and we work very hard to support our customers and take care of everybody. So hopefully this is a useful presentation today. For the agenda, we're going to talk about different types of training. There's a tremendous number of different options out there for learning SolidWorks, and Jay's going to help us kind of understand how you make the case for training. It really is important that you can convince your customers or convince your boss to send you to training and how to be successful. We'll talk about some best practices, what companies are doing that gives them the best results possible. And we'll talk a little bit about the actual classes, and then we'll get into some certifications. Now we do have a poll, and just to make sure that everybody is on board and to get a little bit of perspective before we get started, I want to run this poll, and I just want to see what everybody thinks. So over there in the GoToMeeting dialogue, go ahead and take a look, and I just want to see how often your company does training. Give everybody a little bit more time,
Wow.
a couple more seconds. Not a lot of training.
Thanks for coming to the meeting.
I guess that's why everybody attended.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
I figured everybody that would join the telecast this morning was probably people who've been trained, but
people who already understand.
Yeah,
well, maybe they're the ones that want to get trained. So I'll show you the results here. I think it'll show the results. I'll go ahead and close this out. And so it looks like 48%, almost half of you said rarely, only if it's absolutely needed. 30% of you do quite a bit, but not necessarily always. And then 13% always, and 9% never. So hopefully we'll be able to help you out. The majority of people that probably need some more training than they're currently being provided, we'll see what we can do to kind of give you some ammunition. So
yeah.
Now, there's so many options out there for learning SolidWorks. It's actually one of the big benefits of SolidWorks. It's one of the big things we talk about when we tell people SolidWorks is a great program. We say, look, there's a reason why it's a great program, and one of the big things is the community. And so
Absolutely.
all these options are available, but you got to be able to decide which one's right for you. So I've created some criteria. First one being price, right? You got to be able to spend the money. And we're talking about cost not only in terms of the cost of the class or the training curriculum, but also the time it takes to implement and travel and everything else. We also talk a little bit about the location. So there's online options, but there's also on-location options, whether it's in an office or it's at your facility. There's pluses and minuses to both. Your schedule. If it's a class that's scheduled at a specific time, but it's never held, it's like almost rarely ever scheduled, then that's not the greatest thing. That's kind of that first red calendar icon. If you have the green calendar icon, it's scheduled, so you have to hit the scheduled time, but it's scheduled pretty often, that you shouldn't have an issue finding one. And then as far as the on-demand stuff, that's anytime, anywhere. There's no calendar restrictions of any kind. So that's another consideration. Also complexity. So several times we get calls from people that are doing something or learning something, and it's too complicated. It's not built for them at an early level. Or we get the other option where you got somebody trying to get an advanced topic learned, and in that advanced topic, they go and they take the training and they say, well, this is the most remedial stuff ever, right? So you want to find something that matches with the level of complexity that you're shooting for. And then the ultimate goal here is success. You want to be successful with what you're doing. There's a reason you're taking training.
Yeah, was it worth your time? Was it worth your money? Would you do it again?
Yeah. Are you going to see that ROI on the training course? And this is based not on the theory, but what we see in practice over a decade of working together, trying to help companies to be successful. So we're going to start with kind of university, technical school classes. This is what a lot of people get introduced to SolidWorks in college. So depending on how much you're spending already, the price and the availability, it's going to vary. Tuition gets high, but some of these technical schools aren't, the curriculum, especially like for night class and stuff like that, isn't going to be too expensive. But the curriculum is extremely basic. A lot of times people say, well, I've already taken SolidWorks in college. If it was the EDU curriculum, if it wasn't specifically created to be more advanced than the EDU curriculum, you got the most bare bones possible.
Yeah, we're not knocking it. We give the schools the curriculum to teach, but yeah, what you learn in the first 8 weeks of taking the course is what we cover in the first half a day in Essentials.
Yeah.
So it's definitely spread out, definitely a slow pace.
Yeah, it's about learning what the software is and how to get started. It's not about being productive in a real world engineering and design environment, and that's really what it is. We're trying to get stuff done. The certifications vary, so we see some tremendous instructors out there with a great passion for learning and being good at SolidWorks, but there's no guarantees that the instructors are going to be certified or even all that terribly knowledgeable about SolidWorks. So kind of keep that in mind with those university classes. Great way to get started, and also a really nice way to get into it if you've never started SolidWorks, or if it's something not in your field. It's a great way to get going. The tutorials. Everyone's probably looked at the tutorials, or at least considered looking at the tutorials. They're included in every single license. They cover nearly every single product, a lot of add-ins, a lot of special features like surfacing and stuff like that. The problem we find, and most of the time people complain about the tutorials, is it doesn't say why. It says do this, do this, do this, do this. Successful.
Okay.
And then you're like, okay, well that's great, but now what? So there is some cool stuff as far as the people that are having trouble getting started. Like if it says use this button, you hit the button in the tutorial panel, and it actually throws a big red arrow up on the screen like you see there. And so it does have some really nice like entry level helper things, but yeah, it's
very entry level. It's great to go under help and do some of those tutorials prior to coming to like an Essentials class, though. That way you're somewhat familiar with the interface. You know where the line tool is. You know what extrude means. You know where all the buttons are. But that's useful prior to coming to class. But it certainly doesn't replace coming to a training class.
Yeah, and it's probably gonna generate more questions than it's gonna answer, which is a great way to start a training class, right? Go in, get started, get your questions going, get exposed to it, and get going. The examples are very limited, so on each topic you may get one example, and if it's not like what you're trying to do, it's not really helpful. But it is really great. If you know SolidWorks, you've just never done, for instance, the mold tools, go learn how to click the buttons through the mold tools. Every interface, every command inside SolidWorks works pretty much like all the others. So, it's an easy way to expand once you're already in the program and using it well. Then we start looking at some of the online and some of the additional resources like mysolidworks.com. Now, mysolidworks.com is an online kind of community. It's actually cool. It's got a lot of search capabilities and stuff, but the learning aspect of it, there's learning paths and various lesson tutorials, but they're broken into very small lessons, like 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. Again, it's fairly limited topics in scope, but I'd say it's the ones that they tackle, they do much better, much bigger than they do on the tutorial side of things. Right. For certain topics that aren't necessarily deep enough to require a full training course, visualize, animation, model-based definition, things that you can kind of pick up on your own, there is a really nice set of curriculum up there, and that's probably like the best place to learn some of these topics. Now, here's the thing about MySolidWorks. It is a website. You do have to register, but everything that's on that website is going to be at one of 3 levels, either guest, standard, or professional. And guest, anyone can go create an account and visit, view those topics. There's one called MySolidWorks Standard, and it's basically anyone that has subscription service. If you have a customer portal login, go to mysolidworks.com, log in with your customer portal login. You've got all the standard ones. Now, there is one called MySolidWorks Professional. It's a separate license. It's a separate subscription, and you have to actually purchase it. It's not sort of included in SolidWorks, but that's where a lot of the really good stuff is. Certification prep tests and some of the more advanced topics. So is that something that most customers buy, or is it something that people know about?
A lot of customers buy. We definitely talk about it. Right now, through the end of the year, you can actually get the professional, MySolidWorks professional.com free with a license of SolidWorks. So
gotcha. Okay, so
that's something we're including in today's telecast. So
awesome. Yeah. So if anybody's looking for a new license, it's going to be there. You can add it onto an existing license. Because most people didn't know about this, and because when it first started out, it wasn't as robust a learning opportunity or learning portal as it is today, most people were introduced to it when it was sort of a free add-on.
Right.
But it's something to really take a look at. And you'll be able to see the quality of the videos and what videos are available even if you don't have MySolidWorks Professional. So you'll know what's there. You can look around if you decide that you want to get into the professional stuff. Reach out to your sales rep. It's not a complicated or not an expensive add-on.
I don't know if you get into it, but with the standard, I think there's about 30 videos. With the professional, I think there's over 100.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a big bump, and they're like I said, the certification prep tests, prep lessons are a really good one. So then we go into the e-courses. Now these are also on mysolidworks.com. So they're hosted in the same location, but they're separate from the normal ones. These are actually sort of a replacement for or an augmentation to the normal classes that would be taught at a reseller. So it's the same curriculum as the reseller classes. The group at SolidWorks that makes the training courses, that makes the books and writes them, they are kind of adapting that content to an online e-course format. Now you do have to purchase it from the reseller, and it's purchased as a 3-month subscription. So instead of, let's say, paying X number of dollars for the actual live class with an instructor, you would pay a smaller price and get 3 months to the video access, the kind of an interactive online version. Okay. Now there's nothing to keep, so that kind of keep that in mind, right? You get it, you have to hurry up and go through it and finish it in that 3-month time span, or else you'd have to buy another 3-month subscription.
You get to keep whatever you can retain and whatever notes you take while taking that 3-month
whatever you can write
training.
down, exactly, yeah. There is a limited number of courses. The most common ones, though, these are the ones that would normally be really hard to get from a reseller because they're just not a lot of draw, right? We can't hold a course for a product that only one person in the world really wants to see right now or wants to learn right now. So that's what it's all about, giving you that flexibility to do it. So it is a really nice option. The big thing though is there's no instructor to help new users, and they don't do some of the more basic classes like Essentials. They don't even approach them. So these are some of the more complicated or obscure, like the API programming, animation, motion, flow simulation, where you may have a hard time finding a live instructor to begin with. You've got that alternative. Like I said, it's on mysolidworks.com, and you can go see what's there and watch kind of an intro video, and the first lesson, I believe, is available for everybody, and then you buy it to get to the rest of that deal. So then we come to what we generally recommend for most people. It's by far the best option, which is instructor-led classes coming from a reseller. And there's a different ways that it gets sold depending on who your reseller is. If it's a public class, it's generally priced per day per student. So if it's a longer class or a shorter class, that'll you can kind of scale up or scale down how much you're going to end up spending. And for us, our schedule is posted on MLC-CAD.com on our website. So if you want to go take a look at it and see, what classes are coming up, it's very easy to see. Just keep in mind, some classes have a higher per day cost. Some of the more advanced classes that would require, more specific industry skills or something like that. There's also an option that we do with custom training. So if you've got 3 or 4 students that want to go to the same class, you're just about at the same price to just buy the entire class. But instead of buying all the seats, you just pay for a custom class and say, I would like to send these people to this class. At that point, you can do as many students as you want, up to the limit. We can even customize the curriculum, and we can schedule it on your timeline. We can do it in our office. We can do it at your office. You name it.
Yeah, our limit happens to be 10 because we have 10 laptops. So
yeah. So and it depends on where you are and stuff like that. So reach out, to your local sales rep to find out more. But another really common use for custom training is when somebody says, this training covers a tremendous amount or a bunch of data, and we just need this much of it. So I only want the first 3 days or 2 days or 1 day. Or you've got 3 different classes and you want a little bit of each, and you don't want to spend 3 days and 2 days. You want to spend like just total of 3 days. A public class does a really nice job of quickly getting you into the class, so you're not waiting for the schedule, and getting the information from somebody who is an expert and can really help you out. Now, with these instructor-led classes, like I said, they can be in the classroom. We have offices all over the place. I'll show you the map in a second. We can also do them on site. So if you want to do them at your location, especially great if you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, we'll come to you.
We have a lot of that.
Yeah. So instead of traveling your 10 students to us, we'll travel our one instructor to you. It can save you a tremendous amount of money. We also do them online, which is something we're doing a lot more for certain topics. Where we usually only have 1 or 2 per territory that really are interested in the class. We'll do it online, and we can open it up to a wider audience. It's still instructor-led, video-based, very much like what we're doing here today, but obviously you guys aren't all muted. And then we also find that there's an off-site option where you sort of go to a hotel conference room or something like that.
Yeah.
Get everybody out of their office. So nobody has good access. In fact, we could find a hotel that doesn't have any Wi-Fi too if we wanted.
Yeah.
That way.
That's my preference, is to get them off-site so that there's no interruptions.
Yeah. That's really comes down to a lot of the success is, we hold you accountable. You come to a class, you say, I'm going to send my student, I want them to go. The instructor's going to make sure they're paying attention. And, we've had situations where people just completely didn't pay attention, and their boss calls and said, hey, how'd so-and-so do? And we'll say, yeah, we tried really hard to get them to pay attention.
They didn't come back the second day.
Right,
yeah.
I mean, we're going to try to keep you honest, and we really want you to be successful. We're going to hammer it home, and we're going to work with you to make sure that it is good. The content can be adapted. This is especially useful if you've got somebody in the class that shows up and just clearly is having trouble finding clicks, or you've got several people that need like Windows lessons, like how do you get to folders in Windows, Or you get a bunch of people that have like, okay, that's great. Now I want to know these 18 different things that go beyond what the course is supposed to cover. Well, if we've got the time, we'll cover it, right? Very adaptable and flexible to work with it. And that personal interaction is really what makes it, right? I see you doing something wrong. I'm going to tell you that this specific workflow would make it better, more efficient. You're not sort of looking at instructions, doing it wrong, and then trying to understand why it's not working.
Yeah.
We'll actually stop and say, hey, I see you tending to do this particular thing. Let's try something different for you. I think for your background, for your history, this would work well.
Or sometimes a trainee will be trying to do something in the class, and they'll click the wrong thing and get themselves all wrapped up, or and messed up, and that's hard to correct online. We can do it, but it's certainly something. Those types of things is easier to take care of when you're one-on-one.
Yeah. So that personal interaction is good, and I like to make the joke that I speak fluent AutoCAD and Pro E and Solid Edge and NX and CATIA. I've taught people, several people, through the migration from one of those data sets, one of those backgrounds to this. And they all have different tendencies. They all have different habits that are either really good or really bad. And so I said, okay, think this term when I ask you to do this. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's what I understand. So not everyone uses SolidWorks the same way. Having that personal interaction allows you to really understand what is an acceptable thing to do and what kind of problems you're going to have if you go down that path.
Yeah, and I can say this because I'm not one, but all instructors are not the same. So if you're going to take a class, whether it be online or in one of our classrooms, ask about the instructor. Is this the first time they've taught it, or have they taught it 100 times before? So I guarantee you they're better when they've done it many, many times than them learning it the first time when they're teaching it to you. So
yeah,
ask those questions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and don't be shy. I mean, everybody, you're hiring this trainer to do this class, and we've had people call in and specifically request certain trainers because they've been very successful with them. And certain instructors are going to have a different industry background. When we hire our applications experts to do training, we hire them from industry. We don't hire them straight out of college. We want them to understand what the realities of business are, right? It's not like they show you in college necessarily when you've got production deadlines and things like that. So they give you that background, and they can tell you stories and kind of explain how it was successful for them. When you come to our classes, you get to keep the training manual. And the training manual is like 75 to 100 pages per day of content that we cover. Yeah. So like the Essentials class is 4 days, it's 500 pages.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge class. So it's a fantastic resource. And after that class, you sort of say, somebody says, hey, can you do this? You may say, SolidWorks can, because I saw it.
It's all in training, yeah.
I actually did it in training, but I don't remember how to do it. You go back to the book, you can go get it, and then the training files are available on website, so you can go get them and actually run through the lessons back at the office if you want to. But with this certified instructor, this is how you're going to be the most successful possible for this training. As I said, our website has all of our schedules. This is for us. This is for MLC CAD. Your reseller, if you're from somewhere else, would also have that. Our training labs are mobile, so we can take them anywhere. So the dots you see there are physical offices where we can go and we can set up and host the training, but we could very easily go anywhere else. I mean, I can think of probably 10 different places that I've taught that aren't listed on that map.
Yeah.
We've taught in a fairly regular basis. So another option, so we start kind of getting into the other stuff that's available. There's a lot of third-party programs out there that offer training and learning resources for SolidWorks and other programs. The biggest problem with these is accountability. Just people get it, they sign up for it, they say I'm going to do it, and then they don't. And that's human. That's human nature. I can't
Some people are better at that than others. I'm not one that I have to go to class. I've got to have that accountability. I've got to
Right.
be there at a certain time, and I can do fine. But if you give me the book to do it, well, I think a lot of people, they'll put it off, and they'll put it off, and they'll put it off, and it never gets done.
Yeah. So be honest with yourself. That's my biggest recommendation on any of these. Just make sure it fits what you're doing, and make sure that you're going to actually commit to doing it, and then you've got the time. A lot of times people say, well, I'm going to do it on the weekends, and then they don't. If you're not somebody that actually ends up ever getting things done on the weekends, don't sign up to do tutorials on the
But if you want to
weekends.
build yachts,
Yeah.
that's not a class we teach.
Right, yeah.
Or cars, or
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big ones, is that these guys are coming with a different approach. It's a different curriculum from what you'd see in the training classes, and in certain cases, like the car and the yacht tutorials, it's very project based, so it makes a lot of sense, and it goes really deep into a topic. So some of these are more generalized, some of these are more specific, some of these are one-off. They only have one lesson, but it's a big lesson, right? Google it, take a look around. Some of them are free, some of them are subscription-based. Unfortunately, I just don't see them enough. I don't know enough people that use them to be able to recommend any one of them over any of the other ones. So see what you can find. Just understand there are those options that are available. Sometimes people ask about books. They just really want a physical book. The training manuals that we give during our training class, they're really meant to be instructor-led. They don't give you the instructor perspective. So if you go to Amazon.com and look, there's a bunch of options. They generally have been well received. I've usually heard really good feedback about them. There's only a couple of authors, only a couple publishers that do it. They only publish a couple books each, and they don't necessarily update it every version. I mean, if you've got to print, 100 books at a time to be able to justify the publishing, and then you sell 20, you're going to be incentivized to sort of like keep pushing that for a couple more years, even though the software keeps getting updated. Whereas the reseller curriculum, it gets updated every single year.
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of the new content incorporated immediately into the curriculum every year. The instructions aren't always going to be necessarily clear on these books, and we've actually had some people call in and say, hey, I can't figure out this lesson, and we're like, that's not tech support. But
I'm on page 87 in this book. Can you tell me what this means?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't write the book. Yeah.
It's not our book, I'm sorry. So
That's us right there.
yeah. So then we kind of get the real catch-all, which is the Google, the YouTube, the SolidWorks forums, the buddy, We talk about the Hey Bob method,
Yeah, hey, Bob.
Hey Bob, I'm trying to do this, right? And if you've got a Bob in your office, you say, hey Bob, I'm working on this. He's like, oh, here's how you do it. Well, it's great if you've got a Bob in your office, right?
Poor Bob can't get any work done, though, because everybody's bothering him. So.
Everybody's bothering him.
I always say everybody gets training. They get it one way or another. They either get it over a series of years, asking Bob, or trying to figure out themselves where they go when they attend a formal class, and they learn at a much faster pace.
Yeah. So your buddy Bob, or the forums, or some YouTube channel from some guy who knows where, may have some of the greatest advice ever. It may just be beautiful. And when you're talking about really specific stuff, these like forum posts get into the weeds crazy deep. The problem is I can't vouch for any of that stuff, and it's of a questionable accuracy. If you go in the forums, for example, you're going to see people who are famous, and they are very high up in the SolidWorks corporate structure, and they are like experts, the experts of experts. They're the ones that actually write the code, and they're giving suggestions on the website. That's great. Well, they're right next to some guy who has more opinions than sense, and so definitely try to filter that. You'll be able to figure out a lot of that, but just make sure that you understand that it's great for specific stuff, but it's never going to give you a nice curriculum to go. So this is going to be for the more advanced topics, more advanced questions. Tech support also would fall under this category. It's not training, it's sort of resources to get help. So now let's talk about the other option, the non-option, which is no training, right? You may think, well, I can't decide on any training, so I'm not going to do any training. Well, that's still a decision, and man, it's expensive. This is the cost of doing it slowly, doing it incorrectly, or just not getting it done. And when you don't take training, you start to create problems. You start to create a mess of your files, of your file structure, your designs, whatever, and it grows. The more you build, the worse it gets. Most classic example is large assemblies. People say, hey, I've been building this assembly using what they don't understand at the time is very poor assembly modeling practices. And then it gets to the point where it's really slow and it's really, really awful. And they say, okay, well, how should I have made it? And we'll tell them, okay, here's how you do it. And they say, okay, well, what's a quick way to fix this huge mess that I've made? And the answer is,
there's not any.
It's going to take a lot of time.
There's not any.
And that's tough.
Doing it slowly and incorrectly without any kind of training over time really just helps to really ingrain those bad habits and embed them in everything that you do. And so when you do finally get the training, we have to untrain you sometimes on how you've been doing something. So
yeah. So it's easy in SolidWorks. SolidWorks is an easy program. It's easy to do things efficiently. If you know how to do them, it's easy to do it efficiently. If you don't know how to do it, or if you know how to do it the wrong way, it's easy to do that too. So you may think, man, look how good I am at this stuff. You may be doing it really well, but the wrong way well, if that makes sense. So, but it's never too late to start learning. There's always going to be an opportunity. I took training. Jay helped me to get some training, and I took it, 3 years after I started using SolidWorks?
I don't know. It was shortly before he went to work for us.
Yeah.
And I persuaded him to come to training. And to be honest, I told him, if you don't learn anything, don't pay us. Yeah. And he came anyway. And before the first day was over, he was like, "I'm seeing stuff I didn't know." And
at lunch, it was like they were talking about the most basic sketching. I'm like, I've been doing this 3 years. I'm the Bob of the Bob method. Yeah. I'm really good at this.
He was one of our best users, and he was still learning.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that you could do that with this line tool, like the most basic things I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And those are the things where I'm like, okay, well that's so, although simple, that'll save me an hour a day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that come too late are the ones that usually freak out and they say, done, you've just my ROI is there. The whole class is now worth it.
Yeah.
For that one thing. They understand the value of it because they know what the hard way looks like.
Yeah. Honestly, in 17 years, I have never had anybody come back to me and say, honestly, that was a waste of time. I tell them before they come, you're going to leave with a migraine. There's so much information, but we cover it, and you're going to learn a lot as well. So you can have two people sitting in the class, somebody who's more experienced, somebody who's really green, and even though it's the same content being put in front of them, what they get out of that is dramatically different. So the more experienced user is going to be catching all the subtleties, the tips, the tricks, the mouse gestures, the whatever, where the new guy's just hanging on, but he's still learning.
Yeah. So I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from everybody. I'm going to run another poll, and this one, I want to know what is generally the biggest obstacle to receiving training or to getting your company to send you to training. What is it? Is it your budget? Is it just, I can't get away, I'm too busy? Is the travel too far away? Or is your boss just absolutely a skeptic and saying, no, you're fine. You seem to be doing okay. Let's just keep rolling with this, right?
Do we need some music here or something?
I should have had some music.
Yeah.
Do we need to do
Jeopardy?
Can you beatbox?
No. I cannot.
Darn it.
And if I could, I still probably couldn't. Not right now.
Your skill sets, they're related to or restricted to SolidWorks.
It's kind of a generational thing.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see. Let's close this, and I think I actually have to share it. But basically, time away from work and convincing the boss is a big part of it. Time away from work is a really big one. The cost of training is, that's the thing is people talk about price a lot, but the cost of the training is usually the least of your concerns, right? It's like I need to keep working. I can't work faster because I need to keep working. I can't stop working because you know.
Yeah,
So,
I'm going to throw some opinion in here a little bit, and that is that as a boss or as a manager, when you hire somebody and you don't put them into training, it's really hard to hold them accountable for what they can't do or how slow they're doing something or whatever else, because you haven't given them the tools to do it. The opposite of that is you get them the computer they need, you get them into training, you give them the resources, and in 90 days, if it's still just like the first day, you've done everything you can as the manager, and it's just not going to take. I mean, some people they're just not going to ever get it. And I'd rather know, if it was me, that at 90 days I'm not going to get it and I need to be doing something else than struggling for 9 months, knowing I'm failing and knowing that this is not going to be my career, doing this. But it really accelerates the learning curve, and it sheds light on, is this something that you're going to pick up, or is this something that's just not in you? So
yeah.
But the biggest expense for the boss is he's paying that guy's salary every month to not be productive. So they say, oh, we can't afford it. You say, well, you're paying me now to be unproductive. You can't afford not to send me to training. So.
Yeah. So that dovetails us into the large reason why I invited the master.
Oh my gosh.
To come help us, because Jay has been very successful over the years in helping companies to understand and make the case for training and help users to get trained. And so I kind of wanted to understand, if you are, let's say that you are a user of SolidWorks and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I figure out how to get to training? Like I've been asking, I've been suggesting, I've been dropping hints.
Yeah. Just tell the boss, you spend all this money on software, and we're just barely scratching the surface on knowing how to use it. So, I'm going to be away for 4 days. The people that come to our training class tell me that within 3 or 4 weeks, typically, they've gotten those 3 days back because they're so much more productive, and they're so much faster, and they make fewer mistakes. They've got a better idea of how to, their design intent, how to start that project, that they get that time back. But once that time's given back, they can, then they've got that better method from then on out. But it's not like, well, you'll get your time back within a year. That's a hard sell.
Yeah.
Typically, people will say within 3 or 4 weeks they've gotten their time back and their money back. So, I would say if you're not, I would tell a customer, if you're not going to train them, don't buy the software, because it's just going to be a struggle. We want successful customers.
Yeah. Yeah. People that adopt SolidWorks, people that get good at SolidWorks, they become advocates for it. They become ambassadors for SolidWorks. We want you to be successful. And for companies that aren't willing to make that case and really put all the investment in there, it's going to be tough. And the emails that was sent out, it had kind of a picture there. It was talking about the ingredients for a successful engineer. You need to have good tools, which is SolidWorks and whatever related packages or software is going to be necessary. You need to have a good computer. We're not talking about crazy
No, you
expensive
don't need a $10,000 computer.
No. You need good people, and you need training. Now, here's the thing. So training and good people, those work together, right?
Yep.
But what we find is also the case is that people will hire somebody and send them to training, and nothing gets better. Right? What is it you say about sort of training reveals what's there?
Well, it's like a light. Yeah, it shines light on. I mean, if you hire somebody and you train him and you train him and you train him and you train him, and it's just like the first week, again, this just is not going to happen. But if you don't offer people the right computer and the right training and things like that, I just don't know that it's even fair to hardly hold them accountable for how slow they are or how poorly they do things when you haven't given them the tools to do it. I want to say something about like the educational, what you get in college. Mm-hmm. Most experienced people get in SolidWorks in college is they're working on a project, and SolidWorks is a tool they use to work on the project. Mm-hmm. It is not I want to learn how to use SolidWorks. It's merely a means to an end, and that's not a dig at all. But you don't typically go to school to just learn SolidWorks, and that instructor is teaching you engineering principles and stress analysis and all these types of things, and they're not really there to teach you how to master SolidWorks. So right. You know enough when you get out to do some simple things, and some people get into a little bit more, maybe a little more complicated, but it's nothing like attending a class by somebody like Marcus or some of our other trainers who've taught the class. Gosh, I can't even imagine how many times you've taught Essentials. Probably
Yeah,
Well over 100 times, I'm sure.
yeah, I think I'm at like 1,300 students that I've trained over the years.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
A couple hundred times.
it's
yeah.
a big number. But yeah, no, it's very important to make sure that you understand also that, you know, doing a projects in college usually last about a semester, and the mess that you create in a semester can be managed. It can be dealt with, and then at the end you turn in your project. You zip up your files, throw them on an external hard drive, so you save them for your resume later, and you're done.
Yeah.
Right? You can walk away from the mess. That's like not at all what the real world is all about, right? You create this thing, you get it done, you get it prototyped. In college, you're done when the prototype's out the door.
In the real world, you're never done.
Oh my gosh, you're never done. It's actually the easiest part is the prototype and the initial design in some cases. The hardest part is the 15 design changes that need to be done to make it manufacturable, and that the tolerances are suitable for mass production, but they're not cost prohibitive. These are the kinds of things that we teach in our training courses.
Yeah.
The realities of using SolidWorks in a production environment to do real work and make money. That's what we're here for, right?
Help you make money.
Yeah.
Help your company make money. Be more productive. So.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I think, you know, another thing in any class, whether it's SolidWorks or anything else, it's important to keep the student engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And our guys, especially, again, I hate to promote, you know, our guys specifically, but they're really good at they're not just opening the book and reading to these guys, whether it be through humor or analogies or storytelling or whatever else. They keep the students interested, and it's not, you know, click this button, do this thing.
Yeah.
The last questions challenge them, make them really think about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how people learn the best.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about kind of as we keep going here, the best practices for training. So we've kind of said, okay, well, here's why you want to make the case, right? If you're saying to yourself, okay, well, let's just say that we want to do better. What practices, what specific steps do we take to be best in class in terms of having productive employees and getting the most value for our training dollars? Best practices, anyone who's going to do anything meaningful in SolidWorks needs to take the SolidWorks Essentials class with a certified instructor. That 4-day class is going to give you the big introduction. It's going to teach you what you need to know. You don't go to engineering school to learn how to make cars or airplanes. You go to engineering school to learn how to think like and act like and walk like and ask questions like an engineer. The Essentials class is that thing. It gives you that fundamental base from which to grow every other skill inside the SolidWorks environment.
For many of our customers, that's actually the only class they ever take. I mean, some need to go on for sheet metal or weldments or whatever, but Essentials, for a lot of them, that teaches them what they need to know to do their job.
And we've had more than one case where somebody comes in late the first day and they'll call up and they'll say, hey, I'm going to be a half hour late. I got to stop by the office and sign some paperwork for HR because today's my first day. Like they don't even go to the office first. If it works out, they'll come to our training class for Essentials, then they'll go into the office. So we'll ask them, so what do you do at your job? And they're like, I don't know yet. Just hired on. But we're not going to get started. We're not going to do anything in SolidWorks until you know how to handle it. So when I say you got to go to Essentials, I mean everyone. You know, if you took it in college,
you still need it.
You still need to go to SolidWorks Essentials training, and you're going to learn a tremendous amount. If you're self-taught,
you definitely need it.
You definitely need it. That was me. 3 years, and I actually got my certified professional. I was really good at SolidWorks.
No, he was one of the best users that we knew. That's why we hired him.
I was blown away at how much I didn't know, and all the slick tools that are built in.
And that was in 2006 or 7.
Yeah. And the tools just get better and better. So,
which kind of leads to the next one, really.
It definitely, yeah. If you attended Essentials 10 years ago and you haven't kept up on it, especially if maybe you took a job that didn't use SolidWorks and then you come back into the fold, it's time to go get.
That's kind of like saying I bought a good TV 10 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it was great. Yeah.
Or for me, it's like I used to play a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little fluffier and I'm a little out of shape. So if I was to go and try to play soccer today, like I did 10 years ago, I'd pull something.
Yeah.
It would not be good. It would not be pretty.
I told my son, I said, there's an athlete trapped inside of me, and he said, well, did you eat him? So I understand. Yeah, it happens.
So definitely, keep that in mind. You're going to pick it up more quickly because of that background, but definitely, you need to get back into it and get it up to date, because the Essentials class is constantly updated as well with the new technologies. From there, right, there you go back to the office and you get to work, right? You start using the software. Find out what it is that you do on a daily basis. What are your challenges? You may spend all day in sheet metal, right? But if you are 100% comfortable in sheet metal, you know everything about sheet metal, you've figured it all out, and you have no problems, and your workflow is great, don't worry about it. What is the challenge? What is the thing that you can get the most?
But we touch on, for example, using that example, we touch on sheet metal in Essentials. But if you get to your job and sheet metal is what you do every day, you're going to want to take the sheet metal class, because then we really go into great depth with that.
And you'll really take advantage of...
Yeah, and it's like a 2-day class.
Yeah, you'll take advantage of the depth of functionality that's in there, because you can get by without it. But we talk to people, we say, well, tell me about your sheet metal parts. And they'll say, well, I make 3 of them. 3 different sheet metal parts. We just make a bunch of them, right? They're not going to need the in-depth advanced functionality that sheet metal has to offer. That class doesn't give them much benefit. So, call us and talk to us and ask us, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm having trouble with. For example, the large assemblies is another common one, and we have a full lesson in the assemblies book for large assemblies.
We have a large assembly class coming up,
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So, but sometimes people will say, no, we have serious problems with large assembly. We may change that to a custom class on site, and we'll actually do the lessons using your models.
Yeah.
So we can say, okay.
Let's talk about sub-assemblies. Let's talk about overmating everything.
Let's talk about your sub-assemblies. Because generic problems and generic answers aren't going to necessarily help when your problems are specific, especially if they have a name.
Yeah.
A specific name of that guy. That guy. Yeah. Look, okay, let's make sure that guy doesn't do that anymore. Review the options, review what you're doing, review the curriculum that's available. SolidWorks classes, VAR, the reseller-led classes, the online classes, the agendas are all available for you. You can see exactly what the class controls and talk to the instructor. Find out what the class is going to be about, and if there's something you want to see more, find out if that's something that they can add to that curriculum. So those are the kinds of things we see people become successful in. I do kind of want to stress, though, that not every product is the same. So there are products, like on the left side here, electrical, PCB, simulation, PDM, administration. Those kinds of things definitely require a serious level of understanding and knowledge. And it's kind of heavy on the front end. In other words, let's say you were building an assembly in SolidWorks, right? You build a part, you build another part, you put together, and eventually it sort of becomes the final assembly. It grows slowly. With electrical and PCB, you gotta have the library built, you gotta have the symbols built, or else you can't even start. So it's like you gotta know the end before you start, so you can start the job.
There's some setup. Definitely.
There's some setup to be done. PDM administration, it's another one of those. It's really easy to do it wrong and not add value and not do it, basically create a big old mess.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, why don't you set it up for us before you send it to us? It's because it's specific to your company, your parts, where your suppliers, your whatever else. So you have to learn how. Part of that training is you have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very specific to your industry and your business.
You need a bit of wisdom before you get started, or you need to get some wisdom from someone to be successful up front. And that's where expert training, and in some of these cases, especially with the electrical products and PDM, expert implementation along with training to correspond with it is basically required. In some of those cases, we will not allow you to buy the product. We won't sell the product to you if you don't buy the corresponding implementation and training kind of package together.
And it's just because we want you to be successful, and if you buy it and don't ever get it implemented, then it gets a bad reputation because you failed at it, and so we don't want that for you, we don't want that for us or SolidWorks.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to things like SolidWorks, like Composer, model-based definition, inspection, these are programs that you can pick up on your own, but to be truly productive, to be organized, to save yourself time, tremendous amounts of wasted time down the line, and increase quality of what you're doing, you need the training to be more productive. You can get there from here. You can fix it later if you have to. You can always get better, and there's always more to learn. But it's really focused on productivity training rather than just getting the job done and not, for instance, for simulation, blowing something up.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of setup on the Composer, the SolidWorks, those products.
You can kind of set it up as you go and build into it. And then you get the products that are really either simple products or they're very intuitive products. So like eDrawings, it's just crazy simple. There's an eDrawings app. If you can't figure out an app without a training class, the app is built wrong, right? Some of these other ones are, they're made to be end use by just casual users. Industrial design and conceptual design are a little bit in the middle, just because they are very, very intuitive, but they also, you would benefit quite a bit from kind of an entry startup thing. So for some of those, we may, sort of offer like a half-day guided setup or guided, getting started session or something like that.
Or those might be something we do online.
Exactly.
Because they're not terribly difficult, but you could use a little hand-holding.
Yeah. Last time we did that with one of those products, I did a couple of hours, kind of an intro, and then I offered to get back with them after a couple days of using the program, and they were like, nope, I got it from here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So let's talk about a quick list of all the classes that are available, and I say quick because I'm not going to read them all. I'm just going to flash them on the screen. SolidWorks.com is where you would go to see the full list and see what they all are. So here's the first page of classes. Now, what's crazy is each one of these is a separate book. Each one of these is 1 to 4 days long to teach, and I've taught every last one of these, which is just unbelievable.
Now you all know why you get so many emails about training. It's because there is so much training.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? PCB, I haven't taught PCB yet, but I've taught every last one of these other ones. And there is just an amazing wealth of information. And it takes a long time to learn the product, learn how to teach it. It took me a decade.
Yeah.
To learn how to teach all these products, and they were all ones that I had a background in industry, so I had kind of a base to start from. But these are the classes that are available, and you can see why we might not have a pre-scheduled class for every last one of these. There's just too many of them.
Yeah.
So the ones we generally do the most, I'll go back a little bit. The Essentials class we do quite a bit. Assemblies, sheet metal, and weldments is a pretty common one we do. Mm-hmm. Parts and surfaces, we do that a lot, but a lot of times that ends up being an online class.
Yeah, we do that one a couple times a year, at least at our location.
Yeah. We'll periodically have a routing class, but some of those will wait till somebody says, hey, do you have a routing class? And then we'll say, you know what, now that you mention it, let's see if we can drum up some interest and kind of get some other people involved. So some of those, and do that. Definitely reach out to your sales rep. Reach out to us. Reach out to me if you want. And say, I'm looking for this class. We've got a form, we've got a system where we capture those requests, and as we get a couple people put together, we'll just throw one on the calendar and get it going.
As much training as we do here, we're just one of 17 locations. So, and when I say here, I mean Oklahoma primarily, but
yeah. So we've got some certifications I want to talk about now. So we kind of finished up talking about the different ways to learn, why you want to get some training, what training is available. Let's talk about certifications. Now we actually have different levels of certifications, and these are all the public-facing ones. There's a bunch more that we have as far as the support and training and implementation folks on the back end. But there's 3 main levels. There's the associate, which is in a lot of ways, it's geared towards the high school, college, entry-level, person. It proves that you are functional and productive inside SolidWorks. So it's not the most difficult exam, but you do need to understand SolidWorks. You got to have known.
It's not difficult for you, maybe.
Well, it's not a breeze, but it is definitely something.
It's the first one.
You can take
Whatever
it right after
Essentials.
Essentials.
It's the first one. It's the first one. For those of you who have taken it and failed, remember this is Marcus.
Yeah, well.
He's been using it for 10 years, so
But now, see, if somebody's been using SolidWorks for 3 or 4 years,
they should be able to pass that.
they usually say, take the associate, and they say that was too easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the professional.
So then they jump into professional. They get the other.
The professional is pretty tough. It's
Yeah.
it's fast paced. We're actually going to kind of take you through, and I actually have a free certified professional exam code for everybody.
I had an idea yesterday that everybody should get letter jackets, and they should get, their certifications, like you did back in the day.
I would look so cool
Wouldn't
in a
you?
letter jacket.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna letter.
Or stripes,
I
like
need a
in the
bigger letter
military or
jacket than I
something.
did when I was in high school, though.
Yeah.
And then there's an expert certification, which is the top of the mark, and it requires like 6 certifications to be passed before you can even take the expert
It's
exam.
kind of the black belt.
Yeah. And there's a half dozen or so per state. In some cases, there's a dozen or so, or 2 dozen per state in the country, but that is not a big group of people. So I kind of want to know, for those of you that are interested in getting certified, what level of certification would you be interested, or would you like to try to achieve? Now, not everybody needs to get certified. Not everybody sees value in getting certified. So I kind of wanted to get your take or your personal perspective. Is this something that is a goal of yours? Do you see value in it? And for that matter, for your employees too. Do you see value in hiring somebody that is certified? That's fantastic. Okay, so
It's a big deal.
I was not sure exactly how many people would say, I don't really want to get certified, or I don't have any plans. That's not a very common thing. It looks like I'll go ahead and share these results.
That's the sales and marketing people that are watching this.
Well, yeah, or
Possibly.
or maybe hopefully there's an engineering manager on here, and he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not using this
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm not getting certified.
I'm gonna make my engineer. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
my drafters get good at this stuff, so I can go, attend meetings and
Yeah.
think bigger picture. So, pretty evenly spaced there
Yeah.
between professional and expert level. We got a lot of people that really want to get certified. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So, if you want to become expert, you got to start with the professional. All right, and so professional is where everyone's going to have to start. So let's kind of talk about these various different certifications and the certifications program in general. They just passed a milestone. 250,000 certifications have been issued in the world. And it continues to grow. There's a counter on the website. I'll show you the website. I'm actually going to redeem the code here in a little bit. But these are only the customer-facing exams, so there's a bunch that are from the reseller side as well. And the goal is to transform users into advocates. Now, if you want to do this, if you want to become certified, on the website there is a suggestion for what to study for each one. So for CSWP, they recommend the Essentials class, drawings, assemblies, and parts. You can do it without those, but that's if you just want to know what would be my best study plan, that's it right there. There is a sample test that you can take, and that's offline, like a print it out and run through the test. There's also a sample one inside the tester client that you can take as well. So you can kind of get an understanding of what the tester client feels like and how to work with it.
On any of those classes, if you all are curious as to, okay, it says parts, what is that? You can send me or Marcus an email, and we'll send you a copy of the curriculum overview so you kind of understand what's in that class. So
Yeah, we've got the curriculum, but it's also on the website.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you go to the
Yeah, there you
SolidWorks
go.
training area, you can see that. But so dual screens is really, really helpful. You're going to have kind of the question, and then you're going to have sort of your SolidWorks, and you've got to take the question and the drawing on the question and draw it and then analyze it to answer the question. So having those 2 screens is extremely helpful. Skip ahead if there's some hands-on stuff so you know what's coming. A lot of times they'll say, draw this part and tell me how much it weighs. And if you draw it correctly, you know how much it weighs, right? Then they say, okay, make these 12 changes. Well, if you know what's about to change, you might change your design intent a little bit. So skip ahead. You can always skip back and start the test once you've kind of looked ahead and gotten a little bit of a preview. Also, a lot of times I hear people say they get stuck. They spend, half the time on one question. You can easily just go to the next question, keep on going, and then eventually come back. Now, some of these string together, so that may not always be possible, but try to answer as much as you can, and then go back and finish out the rest. The only other thing is, go for it. Don't wait till you think you're the world's greatest expert in SolidWorks. You don't need to be a world-class expert. If you've been using SolidWorks for a while, you're getting really good at it, and you want to test your skills. Test your skills. There's no harm in.
You might fail.
Yeah, there's
You
no
can take
harm
it
in
again.
failing,
Yeah.
especially when you get a free test, right? You will need some knowledge. You will need some practice. So don't just think you can just jump in and it's going to be a total breeze. But I think a lot of people underestimate their abilities with using SolidWorks, and free is good. So here's a free certification code. That code right there, if you type it into the virtual tester client, when you go and start the tester software and fill that in, it will, when you redeem it, it'll show up as 3 tests, segments 1, 2, and 3 for the CSWP. What's cool is when you redeem it, and you have to redeem it before August 18th, when you redeem it, it sort of banks it in your account. You don't have to take it right now. So if you go right now, go get the tester client software, download it, and redeem that code, it's then there forever, and you can take it whenever you feel like it. So my recommendation would be to do it right now. Just make sure you redeem it before then, and I'll make sure that this is available to everybody on that was here on the webinar. As far as how do I take it, what are my instructions? On the handouts area in the webinar, there's a PDF. It says how to use a multi-voucher, and that takes you through step by step every screen you'll follow to get to that result. So you'll need this code and you'll need that instructions to get there. Okay, so I'm going to actually take the test. I'm actually going to go through and download the tester client. I'm going to log in, I'm going to enter the voucher code, and I'm going to start the exam. So that's kind of what we had to show, or that's what we wanted to show. Now, if you have questions, while I'm doing this and clicking through this, if you've got questions, go ahead and start asking them. This is a perfect time for that. I'll actually fire up my browser here. Yep. So it looks like we got a question about if the voucher can be used to claim a different exam. And the answer is no. This is a CSWP voucher. And so the CSWP voucher is good for the CSWP exam. There is a certification offer where you can get most of the other available tests from the SolidWorks website when you need it. So here's the SolidWorks website. I'm going to go to support and certification. And then in the certification page, there's this certification offer for subscription service customers. This offer details. It'll take you through the whole step of how to do it. We're going to put up a tech tip video soon regarding how to redeem this free test, but that'll let you get a CSWP sheet metal, for instance, or one of the other specialty exams can be redeemed that way. There is no, if you've already taken the CSWA and the CSWP, there's other specialty ones you can get, but there's no expert exam that you can take. So I'm going to just run to the
for free.
For free, yeah, you got to pay for it. Certification Center, I'm going to go ahead and jump into that and click that big red button, and this takes you to the certification page, and this is where you'll download that Tester Pro client. And it's just going to download and install this little client software. By the way, the Earth is round. Juan. For those of you, I don't know if you see the questions or not, but for those of you who don't know, that the question was asked, is the Earth round or flat? And that was from one of our instructors, who is actually a tremendous blast to take training from.
It is flat in Kansas.
It is extremely
Very flat in Kansas.
in Kansas.
Other places it's more round.
So I'll run the tester client. This is where you would register if you didn't have an account before. If this is your very first time, this is where you create your ID and that whole bit. But I'm going to go ahead, and because I've already got one, I'll just log in and show you. It's really simple to just redeem the code. If you have any other questions, please feel free to to let me know. Right here, this is where you will actually redeem the code. Hit submit and it'll show up in here in this list. And I think I'm blocked from getting it because I already have
Have it done, yeah.
Yeah, but there is the sample test too, so I'll show you what the sample test looks like. And then we're done, guys. So I really appreciate everybody showing up. I really appreciate everybody staying on. I don't think anybody left. We're going to record this and send it out as a video. So for anybody that watched it or had to step away or didn't get a chance to attend, we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. I'm going to fire up this test here, some instructions and stuff like that. But this is what the tester looks like. And it's going to ask me to, oh man, I got to build that part. That's a pretty good part.
That's a pretty good part.
And it's timed. So
Yeah, is that the whole test?
No.
Oh.
That's one of 5. There's a bunch of
Okay,
questions. So
all
but this
right.
is the sample test. So
Okay.
definitely check this out if you want to see where it's at. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great day.
Yeah, guys, thanks for your time.
If you have questions, reach out. Reach out to us. Reach out to your local sales rep, to your reseller, and good luck being successful with SolidWorks.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Jay.
Hit that button. Get that button.